Tales from the Factory Floor is a talk that is designed to help you think differently and help you improve business. So the fact that you guys are all here today suggests that you're already thinking differently, and that's great, because to think differently is to change and improve our business and life. So, a bit of housekeeping before we start. In the event, I'm walking around everywhere here, I'm going to stay there. Right, in the event of an emergency, or if you can't handle the inspiration from today's talks, you go out of the double doors downstairs, and the exit is either on the left or through the tradesman's exit, just avoid the fire, wherever that's gone. So, and if you need the toilet, again, out the double doors to your right. And as you can see, we're filming the event today, so if anyone wants their face blurred for legal purposes, then let us know. So, right. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Andy Thorne from Factory Pattern. At Factory Pattern, we help clients improve their bottom line. We do that with UX-focused or user experience-focused web design and digital marketing. User experience is something I'm going to be talking a bit more about later on. So joining me today is Felix Elliott Berry from, I never say that word, from Sibling Distillery. Right. I know, I nearly did it, didn't I? I said it in Sibling Distillery. So Felix is co-founder of Sibling Distillery, and they've created one of the top 3 gins in the UK, which you've been enjoying already. I think it's meant to be after the talks, but everybody seems to be touching it, which is good. Go online, otherwise you get popped on that. Felix is going to be talking about their customer-focused approach and how they come to make such a great gin, and just how they work as a business. After Felix's talk, we've got Richard Cartledge from The Art of Thriving. Richard is the master of thinking differently. He's an executive coach and a leadership consultant. He supports organisations in their quest for greatness. That's the best way to put it. So after the talks today, we're going to be taking questions. So you can ask me, Felix, Richard, anything that you need to know, any burning questions. So before I unleash Felix and Richard, I'm just going to talk a bit more about UX and how it can make a difference to your business. So I'm not going through my slides at all here, am I? So that was the think differently slide. That's someone improving with the UX. So, there we go, Felix and Richard there, that's nice. So, user experience, UX, user what? What's that mean? So, user experience or customer experience is a more common term, I guess. I'm going to shorten it today to UX because that's a really cool term we use to make it sound cool and it's shorter to say. So, what is user experience? User experience is putting yourself in your customer's shoes, asking what they want rather than what you want from your business. And when you ask what customers want, then you can design a product or service that meets their needs. So rather than kind of guessing, oh, I think we need to do this and I think we need to do that, it takes your kind of, not your thinking, it takes a bit of ego out of it, stops you caring about you so much and start caring about your customers more. And then you can design an experience for them with your products or service that's easy and it's delightful. So, that's a blank slide. There's Kanye. So the truth is, customers don't care about your business like you do. They care about your business, but not as much as you do. So I think that's a really important mindset to get into. So if they don't care about your business, what do they care about? So customers care about the results that they get from your products or services. So if we think like that, then how do we make sure that they get the result they want? Well, at Factory Pattern, we use the 3 E's. That's what customers get when they get the results. So the 3 E's up on the wall here are empathise, evaluate, and evolve. So the first thing we do when we're designing websites, when we're designing strategies, anything, even stuff, processes in our business, and anything to do with things we're selling, is we put ourselves in customers and our customers' shoes. So not literally, because they don't always fit. So we ask what they're thinking first of all. What do they want from this? And then we evaluate. So once we've asked those questions, we come up with some theories. We think, oh, they might need this, they might need that. So then we can kind of evaluate our thinking then. So we test it with real people. So in our case, we may test a website. In the case of a coffee shop, they may test how customers come in, how they go to the counter, how they order. And then you learn from that testing. So you kind of make an assumption based on what you thought about them, you test it, and you learn from them using your service or product. And once you've learned, and then you iterate, because usually what you learn, some things you thought were right, other things actually surprised you. So, and then you iterate, so you create another version of it, and then you repeat that process of testing and learning. We're always doing that, that never stops. And then the final thing you do is, or not the final thing, is you evolve. So once you've empathised, once you've thought about them, and you've evaluated and you've tested, and then once you've done that, you've created an experience that meets their needs, you evolve, you learn and grow, and that's when you can make change happen. So that's the important bit. So back in 2002, Google stated, put the user first and the rest will follow. They understood user experience very, very early on. So when they put the user first and the rest followed, they made the world's largest search engine. And not only that, a whole host of other products, but they're all focused around their users' needs. And that's one of the reasons they've done so well. They understand their users, they know what they want, they make it easy, they make it quick, and they want to get them from point A to point B as painlessly and as delightfully as possible. So, I'm going to need some volunteers for our next bit. So, who would like to volunteer for our demonstration that we're going to run? Oh, loads of hands there. There we go. One there, one there. Right, you guys like to come up? One gets the glass bottle and one gets the squeezy bottle. Do you want a challenge? An opportunist. Right. Okay. So before you start, so back in 2002, Heinz decided that they needed to change things up. They needed to improve their sales on their famous ketchup. So they decided to change their famous tomato ketchup bottle. But before they did this, they decided, actually, you know what, we need to find out what do people want from the ketchup. So this unsurprising answer was more ketchup. But it wasn't just that, it was more ketchup and kind of, how do you get more ketchup out of a bottle? So they started by empathising by asking that question. So first of all, it's how do you get more ketchup? They could have made the bottle bigger, so that gave them more ketchup, but then that meant they had to spend more, so that wasn't really an option. So I'll demonstrate the results by showing you what these guys are going to do. So after 3, you've got 10 seconds. Has anyone got a timer? Because I've failed to see. Lids off. I count to 10. Lids off. You've got to see how many little pots you can fill. You can do whatever you want, Sean. Watch your trousers. Right, okay. So after the count of 3, you've got 10 seconds to see how much sauce you can get out. 1, 2, 3, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes! There you go, we have a winner. We do a best of 3. That's the first time we've tried that. You can keep, that's your prize. That's your prize. That's your shit. Yeah, you can one. Sorry, Sean. I knew whoever did that was going to look like an ass. I'll give you more gin later on or something like that. You win a bottle. So as you can see, they responded with a design that it's got the same amount of ketchup in the bottle, but what they did, flip it upside down, they made it squeezy, they also did something to the valve to stop it getting messy. But as you can see, they made it easier, so the experience is much, much better. So, by making it easier, then I get more sauce from my bottle, so that's a great experience. So they, when they redesigned it, like I said, they could have made it bigger, but it took a lot of testing, a lot of learning from the users, and a lot of courage to kind of change such an iconic bottle. But in doing that, the results, these were the results. So when they launched in 2004, the top-down bottle, the one that won the competition, 2004, so they estimated sales of 2.2 million in the first 12 months. When they actually launched the bottle, they sold, that's what they wanted, customers happy, animated cat. They actually sold 7 million bottles in the first 12 months. So that was a result of user experience design, finding out what people need and designing accordingly to make it better. Now some of it would have been, oh wow, there's a new bottle on the shelf, but then after that, when people found out they could get more sauce, then that had a recurring effect and then they sold more. So, to sum up, think differently. So think differently about your products and services. Again, I know I keep repeating it, but empathise, evaluate, evolve, get in your customers' shoes, embrace user experience, get those methods. Hopefully you'll be able to use these methods. If not, just come and speak to me, I'll help you with those sales pitch. And make your products and services better, and great things will happen, I can guarantee that. Right. Thank you. Over to Siblings Distillery. Take a seat now, like Alan Carr. Right. I'm going to move my seat closer, Felix. I feel really far away.
I'm going to have to shout at you.
So this is Felix from Siblings Distillery. Hi, Felix. So, Felix, when did the idea of making gin come to mind, and what was your goal? I'm going to drink the gin while I speak.
I would say there probably wasn't one eureka moment where we decided, right, what we're going to do is make gin. For those of you who don't know anything about us, I run this distillery with my 2 sisters and my brother, and
that's nice.
And we grew up through our childhood with parents running a microbrewery. So for us, the idea of manufacturing drinks and taking a product to the market and kind of working in that sort of world was kind of second nature. I worked in the brewery from when I was 12 onwards. So it was kind of an idea that evolved over time. And then I guess the catalyst for it actually beginning proper was my youngest sister leaving school. By that point I was 21 and I'd been working in a brand agency for 4 years and was ready to kind of move on and do something for myself. I felt like I'd learn how to work as much as anything else. And Cicely, my younger sister, was kind of ready to get started. So while we were on holiday, we started talking about it properly and thought, okay, we'll apply for a license and see how far we get. And much to our surprise, we got granted a top-level license, which, for those of you who don't know, means we can be one of the only places in Britain to distill gin completely from start to finish in the same building. So that was really the point where we were like, okay, this is a real thing. And then I guess the goal initially was to make a business out of it, to stop it from being a project and start it being an actual business that was commercially viable, and just to kind of get a product to market and prove we could do it. But then, once we've done that, the goals change daily for us now. I mean, once you've brought it to market, you then want to take it to another market, so you want to export it. Once you started doing that, you want to get it into more prestigious places, you want to win awards. It's kind of evolving all the time, but I would say the initial goal when we started thinking about it was just to do it and prove that we could do it. Anything after that was a bonus, and we've been kind of doing that now for almost 2 years. We launched in June 2014, and as Andy said in the intro, we're ranked as one of the highest sort of quality gins in Britain, and that, you know, in essence means in the world as well, because Britain's probably the best place for producing gin around. So yeah, I guess that was kind of how it began. There wasn't any one moment where we wrote down a proper business plan and kind of did it properly. We're all quite young and naive in that sense, which probably worked in our favour. We weren't daunted by it. We were like, let's just kind of start working on it, and then next thing we knew, we were buying the equipment. The next thing we knew, we were actually kind of branding it and trying to sell it to people. So it all kind of happened pretty quickly and pretty organically, I'd say.
So you made the gin. Whilst you were making it, how did you empathise with your customers, and what do you know that you didn't when you started?
Making a gin can be quite, or making any sort of food or drink product, especially one at a high price point, can be quite a self-indulgent process. So from the outset, we chose to put customers' wants and needs before our own. So we had to kind of leave our feelings at the door when we started developing the flavours, and we had lots and lots of groups of people from all different walks of life, all ages, all kind of with different tastes and different ideas round on sort of consecutive nights. So quite a long period of time, we're talking about sort of 8 months worth of development. And with that, we put in front of them 20 different gins, sort of market-leading gins from around the world, and in quite a scientific way, ranked each of them and each of the different profiles of each of them, and, you know, things that people like, things people dislike.
Blind tasting.
Yeah, this is all blind tasting. So you're getting customers' true feelings about a liquid. We kind of, at this point, didn't have any strong ideas in which direction we wanted to take it, because we wanted to be guided entirely by the market. We were aware at that point that what we liked wasn't necessarily what other people were going to like. So I guess that's kind of the first point of the sort of empathy side of it. We wanted to make sure that the liquid we created was popular for the right reasons, without any branding or without any sort of guidance. It's what people, when they're blindly tasting a clear liquid, actually like. And it's actually quite often things they say they don't like. So for instance, if you ask people what they like in a gin, you'll normally get the same kind of answers that are like a dry, juniper-y, sort of strong tasting gin. And when you actually get down to it, one of the ones that scored highest in our blind tasting was one that has sugar added to it, and a significantly lower juniper content than the rest of them. So that shows you that actually, when people aren't guided by a nice blue bottle or by, you know, brands they know are expensive, what they like is quite different. So we set about ours looking to replicate some of those traits, but also putting our own spin on it. So instead of adding sugar, we actually wanted to keep the flavours natural. So we used things like vanilla and blueberries and orange to give it that kind of sweet edge to it. And so, yeah, that from the very start of it, we were entirely guided by other people. And as it happens, we come out with a gin that we all really love, which has to be the way. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a business that works. But I think it's that thinking of not worrying too much about what you like. And it's the same with our branding. You know, obviously we like the way it looks. It's actually in about a year ago it was voted in the top 5 gin brands in the world. Sorry, for its bottle alone. But we still have to look for ways to improve it, because actually it's not especially user-friendly in terms of its design, especially for the bar and club trade. So, you know, even things that we love about it, we will have to change at some point. And then what's the second part of the question?
And so, what do you know now that you didn't know when you started as a result of kind of empathising and evaluating?
Okay, so the one major thing is how to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I mean properly put yourself in someone else's shoes, not kind of half do it, but also try and look after your brand at the same time. Because obviously, as Andy said at the start, nobody cares as much about your brand as you do, especially not customers. So for us, it's taking a much more objective look at how we move our brand forward. So without doing it to suit our own personal taste, doing it to really be helpful and attractive to the people who are going to be buying it. And it's the same, not just with the design, but things like when we do events, how we lay out our stand. At first we thought that the right way to do it would be to make it look extremely exclusive and boutique and kind of quite stark. We realised about 9 months into doing this that actually, if we approached our stand as a customer, that scared a lot of people off. And although we thought it looked extremely cool, customers were not engaging with us because they were finding it intimidating and almost too cool for what they kind of, where they pitched themselves at. So we had to kind of step away from it, not think about sibling brand owners, but think as people who might be looking to buy a bottle of gin, and that's kind of the biggest lesson that we've learned.
And so, how did you kind of evaluate things? How did you evaluate your process? So, with the blind testing and then changing the flavours, how did all that?
We evaluate everything every day. We're not, I guess, arrogant enough to think that anything of what we do is as good as it can be. So, as I alluded to before, our bottle actually was voted in the top 5 in the world, but that doesn't mean it's as good as it can be. So we don't ever stop and think, okay, that's cool, people really like it, let's not improve it anymore. we look and think, okay, so it's good and people like it, but would they like it more if we did this?
Yeah.
And it's the same with our flavour. When we launched, it got quite well critiqued, but that didn't mean that it was the finished article. So we've been constantly improving it since then. Things like we now hand slice our blueberries and we actually dry them ourselves the day before we distill, as opposed to buying ready dried ones. We use fresh lemon zest now, which we grate minutes before it goes into the distillery, as opposed to buying ready grated zest. Things like that, although at the start it was successful anyway, that doesn't mean it's as good as it can be. So I guess that's kind of our sort of philosophy on it. I mean, my sisters have a go at me because I come across as quite negative sometimes about the things we're doing, but it's not. It's actually me being very positive about the way we can move forward. So sometimes that will be slating stuff we've already done. That doesn't mean you're being negative about your business. It means you're looking for ways to improve something which is already good.
Yeah. So now that at this point, so how do you think you're going to evolve, and what are your plans for the future?
I mean, every day our plans for the future kind of evolve a little bit more. So it's a bit of a nothing answer. But in the immediate future, we need to move premises. We've kind of outgrown where we are. Where we started is attached to our parents' brewery, and we thought, let's kind of do this in the most low-risk way possible. So we got the smallest unit we could, and we thought, okay, this should hopefully last us for a while. And happily, we outgrew it pretty quickly. So we're now going to be moving, hopefully later on this year, to bigger premises. And that will be the next sort of step in our development, because at that point we'll have to take out loans and things like that, and make it, it'll be sort of make or break time for the business. And we're confident that it will be sort of make it time as opposed to break it. So in the immediate future, it's stepping out from where we started and kind of making it work in a bigger place. Also, we'll be looking to add to our product range, but again, that will not be a choice that I make or that my sisters make. We want guided by what our current retailers want from us. So we don't have any clear ideas of what we want to do to add to our product range. We know what we want to do is make something that's equally high quality to what we do already, but it could be anything, and we'll be 100% guided by what the demand is and what people want to see from us. So that will be, again, within the next year or so, probably coincide with when we move, because we'll have more capacity to do other products. But yeah, I guess that's probably the short-term evolution. And then, it's impossible to say, especially in our industry, what might happen sort of 2, 3, 4 years down the line, because it only takes very small changes to kind of explode your popularity or completely crush it. So it's difficult to say too long term, but those are probably immediate plans.
And finally, what are your 3 top tips for running a successful business?
First one, and probably most important, is don't ever think of what you do as a job. Think of it as a lifestyle. I think it's very important to, when you leave sort of normal work to set up a business for yourself, to stop having the kind of work-life balance frame of mind and just think of it as kind of a lifestyle choice. I think that way you don't get driven mad by the amount of hours you have to spend doing it, and B, you enjoy it a lot more, because you kind of get out of that negative work frame of mind and start just thinking of your life as sort of one complete entity, I guess.
Yeah.
Second would be do the things that other people won't do. So when we started, everyone thought we were crazy because we wanted to do everything on site, and that includes making the base spirit. People who aren't hugely familiar with the gin making process, normally the way it happens is you use a big manufacturer to make your base alcohol, and then from that you redistill the gin and then bottle it and so on. We decided to take the whole process in-house, and it's much more difficult, much more time consuming, and much more costly actually, but it gave us the edge when we started to kind of get our way into the market by doing something that other people don't. It's the same with the way we deal with our customers. We'll deliver amounts that other people wouldn't. We'll price it at a margin that other people wouldn't tolerate. We'll do all the things that we can to give ourselves a competitive edge. So I'd say that's very important, is to kind of look at what other people won't do and then do it. And finally, I'll say be nice to people, because you really don't get far if people don't like you. We know businesses from around here that are falling apart because people just don't like working with them, especially when you're doing something which other people do as well. So I'm making gin, first and foremost, you want to make one that's better than other people, and people will choose it for that reason. But that's not enough on its own. It's the whole experience of working with you. So for us, it's very important that we have good relationships with people that we work with, suppliers and stockists, and make sure people enjoy dealing with us, because they're more likely to pick up the phone and order from us if they want to have a chat as well, than if they hate your guts. So it's quite important, I think, to treat the people that you work with the way that you'd like to be treated in return.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Felix. That was great. I think what was really important, and the two things that really kind of struck me from Felix's talk, was the bit about evaluation actually becoming kind of actually intrinsic to your business. It just becomes a part of it. You're thinking how you can improve every day, because that just never stops you asking questions. And then the second bit about the being nice, I think that's so important. I think it's often forgotten, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear, but it's my event. So if you actually said "don't be a dick" was the first bit.
Yeah, I sense it.
So you'll have to bleep that out, maybe for the BBC. So thanks to Felix. So next, we've got Richard Cartledge from The Art of Thriving, and I'm not going to introduce anything because I'll ruin it, but he's simply got to inspire you, no pressure. There you go.
It's a bit noisy, isn't it?
I did notice that, yeah. No, I thought it was rude getting that.
And this is awesome, by the way. When we're thinking about today's event and designing this, I was imagining carnage in a bloodbath here, but that's so tidy. So I don't think it would work any better.
There's no sauce in that, Sean, by the way, just hard plastic.
I think it was frozen.
Yeah, that's it, yeah, just make sure it works.
So, good afternoon everybody, I'm Richard from The Art of Thriving, the Director of the Leadership Development Company, and an Executive Coach as well.
Gone backwards.
Wrong way, there we go, get it right. So, my background, I was a navigator in the Royal Air Force. I flew Chinook helicopters. One of the things I did, among others, was the first operational Chinooks into Afghanistan after 9/11. So I'm quite interested in mission command, leadership, and getting people to be the best they can be. Why am I here today? The theme of the day is empathise, evaluate and evolve. I want to, in the next 15 or 20 minutes, just go through evolve, engage and encourage. That's what I'm going to do with you. And hopefully evolve your thinking a little bit. So Andy's mentioned a bit earlier about thinking differently. My own definition of leadership is that leaders are people who make capacity, and what they do with that capacity defines them. And my favourite is they think differently. Most of the things that inspire me and make a difference in the world about people do things that aren't expected and are different and are new. So that whole thinking differently theme is very much a part of leadership in my view. There we go, so to start with, I'm going to talk a little bit, and I've got a little exercise, and then I'll talk a bit more, and then we'll have fish and chips. That's what you really came for, isn't it? I think we're all subjected to paradigms and ways of thinking without realising it, and thinking about this talk, where do we start? Centuries ago, we probably would have all sat here and said, yeah, the earth is flat. And if you go too far, you'll fall off the edge. And that's how we would have lived our lives. Until at some point, somebody said, let's explore that and take that a bit further and find out that actually the world is round. Now, either it is round, and tin people verify that, or there's a very elaborate scam going on, because I'm not convinced man's been on the moon yet, personally. Well, maybe they have. But the thinking is different there, and all the time we're thinking new things. So if you're in business, and you're thinking, what do we need to do next? How do you actually learn how to think differently? So a little example which inspires me, and as a navigator this will be relevant as well. Does anybody know what that is? Apart from a watch, I know. Which specific watch is it? It's a pocket watch. I'll tell you, because you're going to get paid.
Silver.
No, it's a silver watch, it's got Roman numerals. No, this is, it's the Maritime Timepiece H4. Which won the Longitude Prize in 1759 for John Harrison. Well, so what, Rachel, does that mean? Well, and also, the pop culture bit of this was the thing that they found in other Fools and Horses in the garage and made them millions. That's a really interesting bit. But what I'm fascinated about with this is the Longitude Prize. As a navigator, knowing where you are is quite important to me. And I think in terms of leadership development, getting you from A to B, do you know where you're starting from? So being able to navigate locate is important. In the early 18th century, there was no way of working out what your longitude was in the world. So latitude is the north-south. And you can work that out by the angle of the sun or the angle of the stars. That's quite well documented. People knew how to do that easily. They could sail ships. They didn't know how to work out longitude. And at the time, the establishment, which is a massive thing, isn't it? They thought that the answer to the longitude problem would come through primarily astrology. I think there were 6 different theories that they were going to pursue. But they thought, astronomy, not astrology, isn't it? They thought it would come through astronomy, how to find out your longitude. John Harrison was a working class carpenter from Lincolnshire, and he thought, actually, I think you can do it by time. If you can accurately keep the time, so you know what time it is in, say, Greenwich in London, and then you're somewhere in the world and you know what time it is when it's midday from where the sun is, you can compare the times and work out your longitude. That was a little lesson in navigation, if you didn't understand that. So this watch represented how to do things differently. The organisation, the establishment, the navies of the world thought it was going to come through reading the sun, the stars. Working class guys said, no, actually, let's do it this way. It took him decades to do it, and there was a lot of heartache getting there, but he won the prize in 1759 after a lot of grief, and that changed history as we know it. So I would say that made Britannia rule the waves, basically, because from then on, the Royal Navy got the timepieces. They could conquer the seas, that conquered trade, we won wars, that made Britain the great country it's been up until now. It's not that before, we're still great, aren't we? Yeah, and European. So, and 2 words that associate with time, so Chronos and Kairos. Again, thinking differently about something that you take for granted. So you will probably think what time is. You were doing stuff this morning, you've come here, and you will go and do something this afternoon, and then it's the weekend. So that's a very linear view of time, and that's chronology, or chronos, which is the Greek word for time. Another Greek word for time is kairos, which means a supreme moment in time, when something special happens. And I put that up there because I just wonder if, in this session today, in this factory floor event, where we're going to have fish and chips afterwards, what if your thinking could shift a little bit and you had a moment where things changed for you and you started to think differently? So, how are we going to do that? I need a volunteer as well who's prepared to come to the front and do something physical. Come on in, and you've got the right sort of footwear on as well. Thank you. Yes, it might be. Push on in. George, give George a little round of applause, would be great. Right, so George, what I want you to do, don't do it until I tell you to, I'm going to do, I think I used to call this duck footing when I was a kid, where you jump forward with two feet together. So feet together, you're just going to jump forward, and I want you to just put a mark on the ground how far you think you can go. So if this is the starting point, just draw a line on how far forward you think you can jump.
So strong.
So, before you do it, let's just, what do you think then? What do you think of that?
I think it is.
I think
Too far.
we can do it.
Ambitious, you think you can do
I
it
think
too
I
far?
can do it.
Tell you what, I'm taking this out on.
This is serious.
That's good. Right, so,
I won't take the belt off.
so be careful, don't fall over. You've got good shoes on, it's a safe floor, and the camera's well out of the way. Alright?
It's not safe.
So in your own time.
Isn't that the bad bit of concrete?
So how did he do?
Very well.
Very well.
Beyond the line.
Exceeded, yeah.
Got the line exceeded. So what? So what's the point I'm trying to make here? My question is, was George playing to win, or was he playing not to lose?
Play not to lose.
Why?
Yeah, I think it's kind of pressure of being in front of lots of people.
Yeah, okay. Any other thoughts?
And there's nothing to win. Like, what's he won?
Yeah, actually, that's very good.
Respect.
Yes.
Gin,
Gin,
Felix said he'd give you a bowl.
He's so generous. I was going to say some ketchup, but then no. So, if I was going to do this now, I'd set it the same way, start at the same point, and I was going to say, okay, I'll draw my line here. Then what would you think?
It's a different tactic.
You're a unicorn.
Different tactic, right?
He's a unicorn.
There must be a way, because obviously, I don't know, I don't, yeah, I don't think you do it,
And
going
you've
to
got
there.
something to beat.
But therefore I think doing it to that method, I just think there must be a different way.
But what if he could do it?
Yeah.
I'd like,
So by trying, am I playing to
Say
win or playing not to lose, or just being deluded? So playing to win.
yeah.
So my point is, so let's just get a bit of a reality check here. First of all, thank you, George. George has come in front of a bunch of strangers with a strange bloke who's not met before to do something he didn't know he was going to do. And actually, I think that's a pretty good achievement, actually. I've done this many, many other times. I've put the line there. I'm pretty confident I can't do that. But what's going to happen if I try? Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not worried about what George has done. I might beat that. But actually, by putting that there, I'll find out how far I can get, and I'll learn from it, and then it might take me a couple of goes. So just take a moment to consider for yourselves what your attitude would be if you were here and you were doing this. And if you're doing it in the room and there's no one else here, how would you do it? Do you think, I'll do something that's safe, I know I can achieve, because I won't be embarrassed and there's no risk? Well, that's boring actually, isn't it? And I don't think that requires much leadership, and that's just life, how we go through it. My challenge is, from a leadership point of view, and to think differently, what if you play to win and just see how far you can get, and surprise yourself and surprise the people around you, see what you can learn from it. So, like I said, a little phrase, for the things that you do and the choices that you make, do you play to win or do you play not to lose? And the other thinking around that for me, one of my favourite little leadership sayings, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So if you're happy with how things are going, if you're happy with how your business is running, if you're happy with everything else that's going on in your life, don't change anything. But if you're ambitious or interested in how things could be, you're probably going to need to do things differently. And that starts with thinking differently about how you could do it.
That's a quote for Instagram, by the way, if anyone wants to.
So, finally, my last bit for me then is, how do we do this then, Rich? How do we get started? So I would like to encourage, and if I can do anything in life, in general, it's to encourage people. That probably sounds like a nice, gentle, soft thing. It's not just a pat on the back. I think there's a lot more to it. So if you think about the word encourage, it actually comes from break it down, it comes from encourage, to impart courage. Courage is my second favourite leadership quality after humility. Humility, you've either got it or you haven't. If you think you have, you probably haven't. Whereas courage, if you break the word courage down a bit more, it comes, the root I think is the French root or the Latin for cœur, meaning heart. So actually, it's what's going on in here is where we get our courage from. So I would say, if you were, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you want to do things? It's probably not a cerebral thing, apart from the fact you need to earn money to pay a mortgage. It probably comes from here. When you don't get up in the morning because you don't want to go to work, it's because something's not fired here. And if you're a business owner or a business leader of any sort, you're probably doing something because at some point in your life you were interested in it and you had a passion for it and you wanted to pursue it. So my encouragement is to follow your heart, engage with your passion, and that's what courage is about. And it takes courage to think differently. And if you think differently, you can probably make a bit more progress on what you're working on. So really, that's all I've got for you. That is some prompts, I hope, that will evolve your thinking to get you to think differently about how you can lead your business, lead your life, or just generally be a better leader.
Yeah, you can sit on the couch now. Thanks for that, Richard. That was amazing. Always inspires me, and I hope you guys are feeling inspired too. And don't feel bad that you're not, doing the wrong thing. Just feel encouraged to do even more. So, to kind of reiterate, I'm feeling a bit drunk now. Drunk all that. So to kind of reiterate what I was talking about earlier, thinking differently. Remember the 3 E's: empathise, evaluate, evolve. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. Put yourself in the shoes of others. Evaluate. Test your ideas. Always ask questions, and then evolve. Take that. Put the line there, always jump to it, or jump as far as you can to it, and things will improve and they'll change and get better. Thank you very much to Richard and Felix, so big round of applause. George and Kat are going to hate me for saying thanks to those two, but if it weren't for those two at the back, then there's George and there's Kat. They, I'm going to get told off for that later. Weren't for those two, this wouldn't have happened. And that is my last slide. So in the spirit of empathy and empathising with you guys for sitting there for just under an hour, we've got the best fish and chips in England from Simpson's Fish and Chips. We've got gin from Felix and Simpson Distillery, and we've also got some beer from Shadowplay, which is nice. And then we've got some bread and some brownies from Hops House Bakery. So thanks very much, and thanks for all coming. It was great.